And welcome back, everyone. This time I am going to fulfill a special request by Laurent philately in France, who left a comment for me, wanted to see an episode, wanted some information on the French engraver Albert Decaris. And I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. He is one of the classic French engravers. His first stamp was from 1935, I believe. But before I get to him, let me go over my mail. So first of all, a few episodes back, I mentioned a stamp that I had ordered, and I finally received it. Not that it took that long for the dealer, but I had it mailed to my daughter, and then she mailed it to me. And anyways, it was this Columbian, a 30-cent Columbian used that is in very, very fine condition, very nice centering for a Columbian, and a fairly light cancel that doesn't detract from the design. And let me stick it back in my card so I don't end up damaging it. When it came time to putting it in the album, I pulled out the album, opened the page, and look at that. I only made space for those 7 stamps. That's because after the 15-cent stamp, the catalog values get pretty high, and well, even the retail values. And so I didn't really expect to get another stamp in the set soon. I'm thinking maybe I'll either just, put it on the side, have room for, 2 more. But otherwise, I might just leave it in the card. See if I get a couple of more in the set, and then I'll just redo the page. No biggie. As I said, I didn't really expect to, get another stamp in the set soon because the price is going up. I just happened to find this one at an incredibly good price. Next from the mail, next is another order I just received in the mail a couple of days ago. I had it sent here. And you remember I guess my last episode, I talked about that Czesław Słania book and the Prince Leonard Bernadotte. So I found a postal card or a postcard that ties in with that. It's a postcard with 2 stamps engraved by Słania, not postal stamps, but just little private issue stamps of his own for Prince Leonard Bernadotte and his wife Sonia. On the back, you can see there's a special Czesław Słania cancellation. So I thought that was pretty neat. I really like this. And then next is a card I got from a viewer, Joseph in San Diego. At least that's where it's postmarked from, actually Escondido. Here's the cover that it came in, and take a look at this postmark. There was a postcard inside, has the same postcard, has the same postmark, so I will show you that first. Here's the card. I like this because it reproduces a Pelican book cover and I guess you know by now too, I'm a kind of a book nerd, book freak. And on the back, there is that postmark again. And what's so good about that postmark? Well, a few more episodes on back. I had an episode on called Date Meets Zip, in which the date of the postmark matches the zip code of the postmark. So here we have a postmark. This was postmarked 9/20/25, which is the American way of doing September 20th, 2025. And the zip code for that post office was 92025. And it's a nice fancy cancel at that. So that is the first item in my Date Meets Zip collection. So thanks a lot, Joseph. I really appreciate that. So, like I said, I'm going to look at the French engraver Albert Decaris, and you'll excuse me if it starts to sound a little scripted at times because I'm not as well versed in his work and familiar with his life as I am with, say, Czesław Słania. So I did have to stuff some research into this before I started filming the video. So, like I said, he was born in 1901 in Normandy, France. And at the age of 14, he entered and I'm not even going to try to pronounce these French names, but he entered a school of art, printing, and graphic design in Paris. That was at the age of 14. And by the age of 18, at the age of 18, he won the Prix de Rome for an engraving that he made. And that's this one here called Eve Before Sin, or Before the Fall, some people translate it as. And you see the serpent down on the ground at her feet. He won many awards over his lifetime, including a 1948 gold medal for engraving in the now discontinued Olympic art competitions. And in 1962, he was named the official painter of the French Navy. He was also named an officer of the Legion of Honor, and he received various medals and honors in the French artistic community. One interesting thing to note about Decaris was that while it's standard for artists who work in the engraving medium to do their work on copper engraving plates because it's soft enough to work with, and for small print runs that fine art prints go through, the copper is plenty durable enough. Steel engraving is used for high print run items like banknotes and postage stamps. And like I said, while most artists, or every other artist really, did their work on copper plates, Decaris did all of his work, all of his life on steel plates, because although it is much harder to work with, it's a much harder surface and requires much finer and delicate work. He liked the finer lines and greater details that you could get with steel plates. So that's all he ever worked with all his life. And here is a humorous self-portrait he engraved. Looks like he's a volunteer fireman. And one thing you'll notice about his engraving, as opposed to, say, Czesław Słania, is that Decaris' engravings, he employs a lot of dense hatching and parallel lines, cross hatching and stuff. He has very strong lines, you'll notice, which gives his works, real strength and gives it a monumental quality. And you'll notice it in some of the stamps here. I'll show you this one, number 1165. It's got very dense engraving work. You get those real solid masses of color. And here again, you'll see you get that, monumental quality to the figures. I really like this one. Philippe Auguste. It looks like, St. George and the Dragon almost. That's a beautiful, beautiful piece of art. And one thing I noticed too, I think you'll see his name inscribed in the upper right corner. I believe he did most of his works, most of his stamps were also designed by him. The art was designed by him as well as engraved. So you will only see his single name on the stamps. See here again on the bottom left after the 40, you see his name. So he both designed the artwork and the engraving. And this is one of his later works from 1985 in honor of Memorial Day in France. Here's one from my personal collection for my music, Hector Berlioz. This is beautiful stamp. This is one of my favorite classical music stamps that I have. This was done for Monaco in 1969, and the colors really, really complement the design too. Now here's where you can really see what I mentioned earlier with the really dense, really strong lines, just, matching the strength of the subject matter. Here's another example where you get a lot of parallel lines, like on that smock and the background person, and just a lot of dense line work and cross hatching. Just gives strength to the picture. This is a nice one I like for Guadalupe from 1947. Again, designed and engraved by Decaris. Here's a 5-stamp set he did for Monaco for the International Circus Festival. And again, designed and engraved by him. Now he had a Marianne stamp. I think it's a rite of passage for all stamp engravers to do a Marianne stamp. He had this one in 1960, although it is only a single. It's not a whole series of Marianne stamps. It's just this one single value. And that was the Marianne stamp that was designed by Jean Cocteau. But as you can see here, it doesn't do much to highlight his engraving. Now, probably his most iconic stamp, the one that's most identified with him, is this one, Scott 1024B, the Gallic cock, or listen to me butcher my French again, the coq gaulois. All told, Decaris did about 600 stamps for France, making him one of the more prolific stamp engravers. And like Soigna, he continued to do engraving work throughout his life. He was born in 1901. He died at the age of 87 in 1988, and he was engraving up until that time. And in 2001, France honored him on this postage stamp that was engraved by Jumelet. Decaris is remembered as one of the preeminent French engravers of the 20th century, and today his works are still studied by printmakers and graphic artists and stamp collectors even, for their technical finesse and how he blended tradition and innovation. So I hope you enjoyed that brief look at the life and works of Albert Decaris. I'm sorry. And thank you for suggesting this topic. And if anyone else has any suggestions for any topic, not just a stamp engraver, anything you want me to study up for you and talk about, please leave a comment below and I'll try my best. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, this is Ted the Talking Stamp Collector wishing you all happy stamping.